Imagine working 60 hours a week, walking miles in the sun because you don't have a car, all to pay the rent for a man who treats you like a servant. Now imagine that same man uses his free time to cheat on you and insult your family. Most people would just pack their bags and cry. I didn't. I decided to leave him with a reminder he'd see in the mirror every single morning for the rest of his life. And trust me, the eyebrow was just the beginning. Betrayal has a specific scent, and for me, it smelled like cheap beer and stale cigarettes. If you've ever been used by someone who took your kindness for weakness, this one is for you. Hit that like button, subscribe to the Payback Script, and let's dive into a story of justice that is 25 years in the making. 25 years ago, I was young, idealistic, and, looking back, tragically naive. I had just graduated high school. While my friends were picking out dorm room decor, I was making what I thought was a grand romantic gesture. My boyfriend at the time had been accepted to an out-of-state college. He had a future. And because I loved him, I decided his future was more important than mine. We moved into a tiny, cramped apartment, miles away from anyone I knew. I had no car, no friends, no safety net. While he spent his days in air-conditioned lecture halls and his nights at frat parties, I was the one keeping the lights on. I worked 6 days a week. I'm talking back-breaking, soul-crushing labor. Because we were out of state and I didn't have a vehicle, I was either walking or begging for rides just to get to a job that barely paid enough to cover his tuition and our groceries. I'd come home with my feet throbbing and my back aching, only to find him slumped on the couch, surrounded by empty cans. I was his girlfriend, his ATM, and his maid. And for a while, I told myself that was what support looked like. But the resentment was a slow-growing poison, bubbling just beneath the surface. The first real crack in the mask happened on a Tuesday night. He was deep into a 12-pack of cheap lager. He was at that stage of drunkenness where his words were slurred, but his tone was sharp and mean. A member of my family had recently come out. I walked into the bathroom and grabbed a tub of Vaseline. I didn't scream at him. I didn't wake him up. I was silent as a ghost. With the precision of a surgeon, I applied a thick, generous layer of grease right into his backside. Then, I took his favorite beer bottle from the nightstand. I greased the neck of it until it was slicker than ice and set it right back where he'd reach for it in the morning. I spent that night on the couch, listening to him snore, feeling a strange sense of peace. The next morning was a masterpiece of psychological warfare. He woke up hungover, groaning. I walked into the room acting completely normal. "How'd you sleep, babe?" I asked, my voice sweet as honey. He mumbled something, but then I saw the shift. He felt it. The grease, the bottle, the implication. His face went from hungover pale to a deep, embarrassed crimson. He didn't say a word. He didn't ask what happened. He didn't even look me in the eye for a week. He lived in a state of absolute paranoid confusion, wondering what or who had been near him while he was blacked out. It was a small victory, but it tasted like 5-star dining. But people like him don't change. They just find new ways to be terrible. A few months later, the truth came out. He wasn't just spending my money on beer. He was spending his time on someone else. I caught him. The betrayal wasn't a shock. It was a confirmation. I called my family. I told them everything. My relative didn't hesitate. "I'm leaving now," they said. "It's a 6-hour drive. Be ready." While I waited, he came home, drunk again. But this time, he was I went to my suitcase. I pulled out my pre-waxed strips. This wasn't about grease anymore. This was about a permanent mark. I walked over to the bed. I placed one strip firmly on his leg, one on his chest, and the final one, the piece de resistance, directly across his left eyebrow. I pressed them down hard, ensuring the wax gripped every single hair. But I wasn't done. He was a heavy smoker, 2 packs a day. He couldn't function without a cigarette the second he opened his eyes. I went through the entire apartment. I gathered every lighter, every box of matches, every candle. I even unplugged the toaster and put it in my bag. I wanted him to wake up in a world where fire didn't exist. I heard a car horn outside. My ride was here. I took one last look at the man who had drained my bank account and my spirit for a year. He looked pathetic. He looked small. I closed the door softly and didn't look back. I can only imagine the sound he made when he woke up. The realization of the wax strips, the physical pain of ripping them off, the panic of realizing he couldn't even have a smoke to calm his nerves. I saw a picture of him a few years ago on social media. We're in our late 40s now. He was standing in the sun, smiling at the camera. But I zoomed in to the left side of his face. Even 25 years later, that eyebrow isn't right. There's a patch of skin that's just a little too smooth. A line that doesn't quite match the other side. A permanent, physical receipt for the year he spent trying to break me. Oops.
You see, people think revenge has to be loud. But sometimes, the best revenge is just leaving someone exactly where they belong. In the dark, with a permanent reminder of the person they were too stupid to keep. Karma doesn't miss. It just waits for the perfect moment to strike. If you think he got exactly what he deserved, smash that like button. It helps the channel grow and ensures more people see the Payback Script in action. Tell me in the comments, what's the most petty but satisfying thing you've ever done to an ex? I'll be reading the best ones. And make sure to subscribe, because justice is a dish best served with a side of wax. I'll see you in the next one.